It is my pleasure today to introduce my littlest brother, Chad Walden, who is going to give it to a spooky on his real life ghost story. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Katie. Well, it's Halloween is just around the corner, and Katie heard some of these spooky stories from my past at an event we did probably about this time last year in the Writing Center, and asked me to share this with you. So I don't know how scary it is, but maybe it qualifies as spooky. When I was first married in 1997, my wife and I bought a house in Alma, and we lived there for 6 or 7 years. And over the course of that time frame, we had several incidents that were just sort of unexplained, weird, that we ended up sort of, it became a running joke that, you know, the ghost of the house was messing with us again. The way that I remember it beginning was with our dog, Haley. And I guess you have to understand the setup of the house. It was a 2-story house, and Jamie's been there. And when you walk in, immediately to the left was the living room, and right in front of the front door was the stairway. And so it was one of those stairways where you had 5 or 6 steps, and then there's a landing, and then you turn and go the rest of the way up. And when you get to the top of the steps, there's just the wall, and our bedroom was on the right, and then the nursery was on the left. And so Haley, our dog, would sleep at the top of the steps right between our bedroom and the nursery, which for some of this story, our oldest son, Caleb, was occupying that room. For some of it, he wasn't even there yet. So it started with Haley, and I don't know, I should say frequently, but occasionally, Haley would wake us up in the middle of the night. And she would wake me up, usually, and which was the weird thing because usually I'm a heavier sleeper than my wife is. But I would wake up because Haley had this deep growl, and she would be standing at the top of the stairs, looking down into the dark, and she wouldn't go downstairs, but she would, you know, like her front paws would be 2 or 3 steps down, and she would still be on that landing with this deep growl and the hair on the back of her neck standing up. And of course, that way you wake up like that at 3 in the morning, the hair on the back of your neck stands up too. And so I was armed with a baseball bat on most of these occasions. And so I would grab this baseball bat and, you know, picture 22-year-old me, middle of the night, you know, creeping down the steps. And Haley would just stay there. And even when I would go down to see, you know, to investigate, usually she didn't follow me, which kind of creeped me out too. And so, you know, the first couple times I remember walking, you know, down the steps, flipping the light on, and just looking around the living room and not seeing anything, and then moving into the dining room and kind of looking around the corners and nothing there, and through the kitchen and then the back room, and there would be nothing to find. But this would happen, you know, maybe a couple times in a month, and then maybe nothing for a couple months at a time, and then again it would happen. And it started to get to where it was kind of like, all right, Haley, settle down, it's whatever, you know. But a couple times when I went downstairs, I did find some things. One night, well, we had this closet, and it was one of those kind of a deep closet. Had its own light, right? So and we would store stuff. We didn't use it much because it would be like winter coats and boots go in there, and then in the winter that stuff comes out, and all the flip flops and the summer stuff goes in. And this closet, the door would swell. You know, when it was warm, and you'd have to turn the knob and kind of push down on it and pull at the same time. It was kind of a pain, to be honest. And we didn't use it much. Well, one night, Haley's doing her thing. I wake up, she's growling. I look at my wife, and she's like, yes, you still need to check. So I grab my bat, just in case, and go walking down the stairs, and I turn into the living room. And so the hallway stair light was on, and I hadn't turned on the living room light yet. And as I'm getting ready to do that, I see there's a light on around the corner. And I know my wife was in bed, And I know, and I don't know if Caleb was around then or not, but if he was, he would have been in a crib. And so I go creeping around the corner, and lo and behold, this closet door is wide open, and the light is on. No idea, never explained. And if all this turns out that my wife was doing these things to me, we're going to have some real explaining to do. Another time I woke up, and this was a different experience. I woke up to the sound, I was sure, of breaking glass. And you know how when you wake up sometimes and you're not sure if you dreamt something or if it was real? And I sat up and I was like, glass is breaking. And I looked at my wife and she's awake and looking at me, kind of like, did you hear that? And I looked at Haley and she wasn't barking and she wasn't acting weird, except she was looking at me also like, did you hear that? And so this time, I go creeping down the stairs, I turn the light on, and I'm fully expecting to see, now we would see kids, high school kids, college kids sometimes walking up and down the street at night, and I thought, maybe somebody threw a rock through the window, maybe I was going to find broken glass and a rock or a baseball or something. Just sure that it was breaking glass. And I walked down and I looked out the window here and I looked at the front door and the living room windows and there's nothing broken. I'm thinking there's no way it was in any other part of the house. I wouldn't have heard it. I didn't think it would have been upstairs. And so I'm standing there in the living room just dumbfounded, looking around going, what was that? And my wife at the top of the steps is like, everything okay? And I'm like, I don't know. I think so. And so she comes down, and the lights are on now, and Haley joins us, and we're standing in the living room, and I'm just perplexed. And she says, "Where's the mirror?" And so I looked to the wall where we had this mirror that my grandparents gave us when we got married, and it was this really pretty, wood oak framed mirror, and it had this like blue stained glass kind of edge on it. And we had it hanging above the entertainment center on the big wall in the living room. And it was gone. And so now I'm like, that's what the glass was. The mirror must have fallen and broken. But I can't see it because the entertainment center is there. So now it's 3 in the morning and we're moving the entertainment center and I'm picking up broken glass. And the mirror was like this big. And it was hanging on one of those thick wires that you use to hang paintings and heavier stuff. And so I looked in at the wall, and the nail is still there, and I'm wiggling, and it's solid as can be. And so I thought, it must be the wire broke, or it came unattached from the frame or something. And so we're getting everything out of there and picking up the glass, and I grabbed the frame and I lift it up, and the wire is still completely intact, fully attached, solid as can be. It's an inside wall. Wasn't like, the house was shaking in a storm or anything. And the thing just shattered. And to this day, I have no idea. And I don't think my wife could have set me up for that one because she was in bed beside me. So that was, at that point we're like, oh, I guess the ghost didn't like the mirror. And ha, right? Let's go back to bed and try to go to sleep. The one thing that I remember that really did sort of stop me in my tracks in the daytime was the experience that Katie used to kind of title this little talk. Back then, I used to go out once in a while with friends in the summer, and we'd go golfing. And I was, a young teacher, and so I had summers off, and my wife was working at the dentist's office, and so I made plans with some friends to go golfing one day, and before I went, I got up that morning, ran some errands in Alma, picked up some stuff we needed, washed the car, came home with my pocket full of loose change. And I had to go home, and I remember I was cutting it close. I needed to go home and grab my clubs, grab my golf shoes, and then go meet my friends at the golf course. And so I ran in and was kind of like, getting all the clutter out of my pockets, and I threw all the loose change down on the table by the phone, grabbed my clubs and the golf shoes out of the closet that we rarely used, and was off to go golfing. Came back, 2 or 3 hours later, whatever it was, and walked into the house, and I'm getting ready to set my keys down on the table right where I had put the change, and the coins were stacked like this tall, with the biggest coins on the bottom, the quarters, and then the nickels, and then the pennies and dimes, like a little tower of change, just as neat as can be, right in the middle of the table. And I was like, that's not something I would do. And I didn't do that. And so I called my wife at work, and I said, did you come home at lunch? And she was like, no, why? And I was like, we gotta move. No, I just was like, well, this really weird thing happened with these coins. And she was like, the ghost is messing with you again. It was never explained, and that back then she and I were the only ones in the house that I knew of. Maybe I should have checked the attic or something. So I don't have any great explanation for any of this stuff, and I don't know what I really think of it. I just know that it was kind of spooky, and but at the same time, we never felt like we got to get out of here and Amityville Horror kind of thing. 6 years or so, we lived in that house, and we moved to another one, and thankfully, it didn't follow us. I guess that's the story.
Yay!
Good, yeah.
Does anybody have questions for Chad? And I'd like to know if you said it didn't follow you, but no more ghosts anywhere?
No, it's you always see in movies, right? If this happened in Hollywood, I would have been in the library flipping through microfiche, trying to figure out who died and how that all worked. Right. We never did any investigation or never called an old priest and a young priest, is the joke that Calvin uses. And yeah, nothing.
Did you ever go back to the house and ask the new owners?
No, but I've thought of that. We drive by it once in a while, sort of nostalgically, and I always wonder. I wonder if that guy's wife messes with him.
That's interesting.
All
That is
right.
cool. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Chad. So that wraps up this season of sharing and caring in the library.